What is up everyone on YouTube, and today we're going to be talking all about Laia, the new unit that has just come out, who is a limited Earth Warrior. Because she's limited, she most likely won't come out again for the next year or year and a half, and because of that you definitely want to pick her up. And also she's very waifu, as well as being very good in the current meta for PvP. Now why is she good in PvP? Let's actually talk about her skills and you'll probably understand why. So we have her S3, it's a single target attack. If you kill an enemy with this, you'll recover health and get an extra turn. This will penetrate defense and cannot trigger a critical hit. So this will go through high defense units like Karina and even Abyssal Fune and even Lionheart Sermias and do a ton of damage. And you're going to see that this damage dealt and the heal will actually scale with Laia's max HP. Now the thing with this skill, it's very similar to Tamarin's S3 in the fact that it will start with a full cooldown on the skill here. And you're going to see when this skill is unavailable due to cooldown count, basically in simpler terms, if it's on cooldown and not available, at the start of every turn you'll decrease all skill cooldowns by 1 turn. So her S3 will go down by an extra turn, and her S2 as well will also go down by another turn. Speaking about her S2 now, 7 turn cooldown, pretty long, but you're going to see that it is an AoE debuff cleanse and a 25% combat readiness push, and also will decrease skill cooldowns of all allies except for the caster by 1 turn. So this is very powerful because you can actually use her against Lua and Noggle, right? So if Lua and Noggle actually use their S3 on Laia, they will actually be able to not really get affected, right? Because the skill cooldown increase does not matter because her S3 does a reduced skill cooldown effect, and Lua's is the same thing, right? It's only 1 turns. So unless there's a unit that comes out that is a basically a 2-turn skill cooldown, pushback, then Laia will be very good against these units. Now, of course, she will struggle still against, like, for example, Blue Kisei if for some reason she's on high effectiveness and she lands on Earth Laia, or even something like Faithless Lidica. But besides those 2 units, you're not going to really get your cooldown reset, so it makes her a very powerful unit. And because of that, she can actually get her S2 back up, and then her allies who got reset by Lua and Noggle, they will get cleansed by Laia from the bind or the sleep or the beguile that's on them, and also have their skill cooldowns pushed back up. So because of this, you want Laia to actually be the fastest on your team when you pick her against Lua and Noggle to make sure that she can actually reset the cooldowns of your team and actually make it so that Lua and Noggle basically do nothing at all. So she's primarily going to be used against Lua and Noggle as a hard counter. And you're probably wondering, why is a hard counter unit that's very niche so good? That's because Lua and Noggle have been dominating PvP for so long, and you definitely need a good answer to them, and I think Laia right now is going to be the best answer by far because she just completely counters them. Also, if you actually don't go against Lua and Noggle, I've been actually having some success with her. Her S2 is very powerful, right? You build Laia pretty fast, that CR push in itself is still very powerful, you can actually play aggressively, and her S3 hits decently hard. Now we have her S1, you're going to see her S1 is a combat readiness push for herself, and when her S3 is on cooldown, you'll trigger a dual attack from a random ally. And this damage also scales with her max HP. So she scales pretty well with max HP for damage, and she also has a dual attack in her S1. So even if you don't have her into Lua and Noggle, say you're picking, you're playing World Arena, and you pick her, and then the enemy sometimes doesn't pick Lua or Noggle, well, you can actually still get some value from her because her kit is still decent without having to counter those units. I think she's a pretty good unit, definitely something worth pulling for. She's a limited. She's very cute, and she's also very strong. Now, how you want to build her, guys, it's pretty simple. There's only going to really be 4 stats you're really looking for. Actually, probably even 3. The only thing you really need is speed. You want her to be the fastest on your team. I'd recommend anything above 240, but as long as she's the fastest on your team, she'll be okay. You also want her to actually be pretty decently bulky so she doesn't die, because you do want her S3 to come eventually. Because this does start on cooldown, you'll have to live through some turns. So because of that, you want her to be decently bulky, and also her damage scales with health, so you want to make sure she has some pretty high health compared to defense. And of course you want some defense sprinkled in as well, even though it won't make her do more damage. If you have really high health and very low defense, you are going to be pretty squishy for the most part, so you want a good balance. I'd say anything above 24,000 health and about 1,400 defense or more, and she should be good. Some people like to run her on effect resist, some people don't. Some people like her on effect resist to counter, Faithless Lidicas, who are on full damage, which is the most common build, but you don't really see Faithless Lidicas anymore, and because of that, you can pretty much forego effect resist, and she has no debuffs at all, so you can ignore effectiveness as well. And because she can't crit on her S3, which is her biggest damage ability, her S1 doesn't really do that much damage besides the unit you bring with you. Because of that, you actually don't really need any crit chance or crit damage or attack. So only thing you really need is health, defense, and speed, making her very easy to build. And if you have a substat left over, you can always go for some effect resist as you wish. And honestly, the other subs don't really matter, so it's going to be hard to actually get good pieces for her on her rings and her necklaces. You're going to want heavy defense, heavy health, and heavy speed. The other two substats don't really matter. But yeah, only 3 stats you really need to focus on. Now for her artifact, you really want her on her own. The only problem is there's RNG unless you max it out. You're going to see it gives her flat health increase, which is very nice. It'll make her survive longer, deal more damage with her S3. And also you can see at the start of the turn has a 75% chance at plus 15, going up to 100 at max, plus 30, to decrease the debuff durations of the caster by 1 turn. This works every 3 turns. Very good against units like Zeo and Angel of Light. If you actually don't have this on her, because she has no effect resist, Angel of Lights and Zeos can actually screw with her pretty bad. If you have this artifact, she can actually end up being a good answer to those units as well as being okay even into like Conquer Lias and some cleave openers. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you have this on her. If you want to max it out, it's up to you. It's very expensive Skystone wise or even money wise if you spend money on the game to go for max artifacts. I kind of hate that Smilegate actually has these limited artifacts gated behind these percent chances, or we have like Rocket Punch Gauntlet, very strong collab artifact that has RNG in it once you max it out, which everyone recommends because it's so good. Another good example is the Tachi here. There's a lot of artifacts in the game that just have percent chance that goes up to 100. If you actually have it maxed out, and if you don't have it maxed, you're missing out on some percent chance, like this as well. Started the Deep Sea, so I don't really like it. I think Smilegate should kind of stay away from it. I think it's okay for artifacts like this one where it doesn't max out at 100 because you still have RNG no matter what. But things that max out 100 and give you that constant effect if you have it maxed just seems like a cash grab. So not happy about it, but this artifact seems very strong, especially on her. So if you do want to use her a lot, you do find a lot of success with her, I kind of would say maybe you want to go for copies if you have a lot of bookmarks, but we might have another collab or a new collab come out, or a rerun I guess, in the near future. So you definitely want to be wary and save your Skystones a bit. Okay, this unit is very fun to play, guys. I'm not saying that this is the best build for her. I just kind of put her on some leftover speed set and health set gear, which are her best sets. If you guys actually pulled for her and are using her and are finding success with her, let me know in the comments down below what your build is actually on. If you guys are seeing that she's not that great, you think she's not really worth it, also let me know, because I think she's a pretty decent unit, but maybe I'm wrong. Before we end the video though, guys, I know some of you guys are wondering what about her skill enhances. So for skill enhances, we actually have her S3. You want this maxed out for the damage. If you really want to be a little bit frugal with your Mologoras, you can get it to +3 just for the skill cooldown reduction, and that should be fine. For S2, you definitely want to max this out as well. If you want to be frugal with this, you can just put a few into it or not at all, but the CR readiness push, 25% is so much better than 15, especially in this meta that's dominated by speed, so you definitely want to make sure you can invest some skill enhances if you can. Now for S1, you don't really need anything. Obviously the combat readiness will be nice to actually cycle faster to get your S3 off cooldown, but I think that's kind of just a bonus, not really necessary at all. But yeah, that's pretty much how you want to build Laia, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys hit that like, and I'll see you guys next time.